Hello. Welcome to another episode of Now You See Me, the show where we redefine beauty from the inside out. My name is Jeannette Jones. Last week, I talked about a recent trip that I had gone on, trying to check something off on my bucket list. And things didn't quite happen like I planned. I focused a little bit last week on the listening portion of my revelation. This week I want to focus a little bit more on the emotional side of the revelation. So things didn't happen, like I said, quite like I wanted them to. And so I wouldn't say distraught, but I was caught up in my emotions. It's almost like that Bee Gees song. There's a line in one of the Bee Gees songs that says, "It's just emotions that's taking me over, tied up in sorrows, lost in my soul." That's what I felt like this weekend because I thought that God and I were on one accord. I thought we were tight about this thing. But listening or lack of listening caused the emotional response. And I was like, okay, I'm triggered. Okay, Lord. I'm triggered by disappointment. In one of the other episodes, I had shared how instead of dealing with things in my past, I would just press them down. In my mindset, I just let it roll off my back. It was rolling off my back. It was not rolling off my back. It was rolling into a well of emotions that I hadn't dealt with. Or I didn't feel like I was dealing with at that time. And so I'm in a season now where everything that's pushed down has to be pushed back up and dealt with. And I think I am not alone. God wants us to deal with our past situations, deal with our past emotions, because He doesn't need us to go out into the arena, so to speak, and not be whole. Or have skeletons in the closet, or have things that we have not dealt with that the enemy can use against us. So needless to say, when we're dealing with disappointment comes with friends. And it's tied up in worry, it's tied up in rejection, and it's tied up in delay. Over the years, as we try to do certain things and it falls to the side or it falls to the wayside or it's not accomplished or it doesn't come into fruition, we get discouraged. We start feeling negatively about ourselves. We start feeling like a failure. Some people even get to the point of discouragement that they even try to commit suicide. And as a result, they'll take that particular thought or dream or business or whatever it is that you have, that you had a mindset to do, and you take it and you put it on your shelf. And you live your whole life. We would have lived our whole life without moving into our divine destiny. And that's not something that I wanted for myself. And that's not something that I want for you. So I'm sharing this story with you for this reason. There's a woman in 2 Kings chapter 4. And from verses 8 through 37. And she's just known as the Shunammite woman. That's all she's known as. And I want to read verses 8 through 11 for you. The thing about this particular story, I saw a lot of parallels. And I want to share those parallels with you today. Verse 8, 2 Kings chapter 4. Now a day came when Elisha went over to Shunem, where there was a prominent woman, and she urged him to eat food. And so it was, as often as he passed by, that he turned in there to eat. And she said to her husband, "Behold, now, I am aware that this is a holy man of God passing by us repeatedly. Please, let's make a little walled upper room, and let's set up a bed for him there, and a table and a chair and a lampstand. Then it shall be when he comes to us that he will turn in there. Now one day he came there and turned into the upper room, and he rested. Now let's talk about the woman. She was prominent. That means that she was well known, important in her society, in her particular area. And clearly she was generous in that she made sure that the man of God ate every single time that he passed by. She even was moved to the point where she wanted to provide not only hospitality of food, but she also wanted to provide a dwelling for him to stay so he could rest. And she had favor with her husband because he readily built the room for the man of God like she requested. She was generous of heart. She was very, very genuine in her desire to please him, the desire to take care of the man of God and to sow into his life. Just a sidebar, it's always good to sow into those who are really, really, truly from God. I know a lot of things have happened in our lives where we were used and abused, and fraud happened at some point. But ask God to increase your discernment. Give and it shall be given back to you. Give and God will cause you to reap a harvest because you sowed into the people of God. But like I said first, be generous, be genuine of heart, and God will give you the discernment on who to sow into and who not to sow into. And clearly, this particular relationship that she had with Elijah was very, very beneficial to her and the lives of her household. Her entire family, her entire household was blessed by the fact that she was about to be blessed heavily by the man of God. Let's read verses 12 and 13 from the same chapter. Then he said to his servant Gehazi, call this Shunammite. And when he had called her, she stood before him. And he said to him, say now to her, behold, you have taken trouble for us with all this care. What can I do for you? Would you like me to speak to you, speak for you to the king or to the commander of the army? But she answered and said, I live among my own people. What she was basically saying is, I'm good. I'm good. I'm here with somebody who clearly cares about me. I'm living well among my family. I'm content. I'm content. And so, man of God, I'm good. I'm secure in where I am. I'm secure. And so, in verse 14, he said, what then is to be done for her? And Gehazi answered, it is a fact that she has no son, and her husband is old. He then said, call her. When he had called her, she stood in the doorway. Then he said, at this season, next year, you are going to embrace a son. And she said, no, my Lord, you man of God, do not lie to your servant. In other words, don't be stirring up my dead dreams. I had already made come to terms with the fact that thing is not going to happen for me. That's not meant for me. I had taken that dream and I put it on the shelf. It's dusty now. I'm okay. Didn't I just tell you that I'm fine? Didn't I tell you that I'm secure within my family? Didn't I tell you that I was satisfied with my life? I'm living large and I'm living good. I'm comfortable. My husband loves me despite the fact that I don't have any children. And chances are, if she had servants, she did what Rachel did with Jacob, because Rachel was barren. And so Rachel gave Jacob Bilhah so she could have some children. So it's like the servant's children were her children. So she probably had intentions of not worrying about it anymore. So I don't need you stirring up the soil here, stirring up the dirt, bringing that thing back out of the cage that I put it in. No, sir, she said. Do not lie to me, because I've been disappointed before. Then the dream was actually fulfilled. Verse 17 says, now the woman conceived and gave birth to a son at that season the next year, as Elijah had told her. I could imagine at first she didn't know quite how to take it. Her dream deferred was no longer deferred. It was standing right there live and in person and in front of her. I could imagine over the years, it took her some time to really embrace this blessing. But stuff happens. Things happen, and we'll talk about it later. Excuse me. But when I'm looking at this woman, I just see a mirror. I see a mirror because I'm comfortable. And it's not that I'm not striving for this or the other. It's just you have a decent job. You can travel if you want to, Jeannette. You can surround yourself or know how to surround yourself with quality people that truly have your best interests at heart. You know how to do that. You also know how to push those other ones away. You are at a place where you're good. Your relationship with God, Jeannette, is growing more and more. And certain things that you tried are in the past. They're in the past no more. They're in the past. Certain things, Jeannette, that you have tried in the past, they may have failed, but they may not necessarily have been for you. And I had gotten to a point where I'm good. I'm like her. I don't want to hear your prophecy. I don't want to hear these things God has in store for you. I don't want to hear all of that. Don't be shaking up the dust. I've gotten to the point where I'm settled and I am satisfied with that thing in my heart. That it's just going to be left alone. That thing is not going to be left. That thing is not for me. I was satisfied with that. And I can see, like I said, the woman of God saying that. And I can also see her joy. God, you really did do that thing, didn't you? You really are mindful of me, aren't you? And so as we move on in her story, and we're not going to read all of it, but verses 18 to 21, the boy was in the field with his father. And then he said, my head, my head, my head. And so the father said to the servant, carry him to the mother. And so she just rocked the baby. And he evidently was big enough to be in the field with his father. So he was probably a decent age by that time. But she rocked him until he died right there in her lap. Can you imagine the dream that was deferred, that was deferred no more, that was living, and she was embracing and loving it, all of a sudden died? What are you going to do? What did you do when your dream looked like it had died? This is what she did. And for me, this totally proves that actions speak louder than words. Her actions were of a woman who had faith. This is what she did. She took the child and she laid him in the prophet's room. And she closed the door. Then she asked her husband to saddle a horse and because she needed to go. He's like, where are you going? He's like, is this a Sabbath? Where you going? And she was like, all is well. And then when the servant started driving, she said, drive as fast as you can. Don't look to the left or the right. Just keep going. And then she met up on Gehazi, because Elisha had seen her from afar off. He told Gehazi, go see what she wants. And she did not talk to Gehazi. Gehazi was not the one she wanted to talk to. She wanted to talk to the man of God. And so as she went up and she found the man of God on Mount Carmel, she fell to his feet. She fell to his feet immediately. Pay attention. She said she closed the door behind the problem. She didn't say anything about it. She didn't say anything to her husband. She didn't say anything to the servant. She didn't say anything to Gehazi, and he's right there next to the man of God. She needed to see the man of God. She needed to go to the source, who was the source of the blessing in the first place. She needed to go to Elisha. So after she was like in verse, let me see here. Let's see. Let's go to verse 28. We're going to go to verse 28. Then she said, as she fell to his feet, remember I said she had fallen to his feet, did I ask you for a son from my Lord? Did I not say don't give me false hope? Here's the thing about tragedy. Your body has memory. Your body remembers the disappointment. Your body goes into, or your mind goes into default setting. I knew this was too good to be true. That's what she is probably thinking. But the contradiction, y'all. Her actions were actions of a woman of faith. She spoke not against the boy at all. That she never told anybody that he was actually dead. She didn't talk to her husband because his faith probably wasn't where hers was. She didn't talk to the servant who was driving it. She just said, just drive, just go. She didn't talk to Gehazi, who was right there, his right-hand man. She didn't want to talk to him. She went straight to the source. That's a woman of faith. When things in our lives are not like they're supposed to be, we go to the source. The person that can do the impossible. The person that can solve the problem, we go past the source. We go to the source, rather, not past. We pass everybody else that's not the source. We know who has the power. We know who has the anointing. I'm not saying that the man of God didn't have any anointing on his life. But what I'm saying, Gehazi wasn't who she wanted to talk to. And after she told Elijah the problem, Elijah in verse 29 told Gehazi, get ready and take my staff in your hand and go. If you meet anyone, do not greet him. And if anyone greets you, do not reply to them. And lay my staff on the boy's face. So I guess Elijah thought that she was going to leave with Gehazi. She did not. I didn't come to see Gehazi. I came to get you. She said in verse 30, the mother of the boy said, as surely as the Lord lives and you yourself live, I will not leave you. So he got up and he followed her. Her actions said one thing. Her mouth said another. And so, okay, that's a conflict there. In this particular case, actions speak louder than words. It spoke louder than words. What do you do when your dream dies? How did you react? Years and years and years and years of believing for something. How did you react? I know at some point God's telling you to take it off the shelf. I'm ready for you to do that thing. That thing that encompasses your role in the kingdom. I need you to do it. I need you to go ahead and brush off the dust from it, because I have need of you. And in your mind, well, we done tried this already. I've tried this already. I've tried this 100 times. Fail, fail, fail. No failure to launch, basically, is what's happening. You and I have been disappointed in our lives when we try to reach out and do something too soon, when we were not emotionally and spiritually ready for it. And it could just be God's timing, period. The woman of God went to her source. The source came. And of course, the dream that was deferred, the dream that lived and gained legs and grew, the dream that died or looked like it died, lived again. Her actions spoke louder than words. Our actions have to speak louder than words. Here's the thing though, because I love the brain and understanding the brain. We have to stop the brain from going to that default setting. Clearly in her spirit, she knew what to do. In her spirit, she was doing exactly what she needed to do. She knew not to speak out against what was happening. She knew to not say anything to anybody that didn't have any real power. She knew that. Do we know that when it comes to the things that God is asking us to do? The impossible? Do we know that we don't speak out against it? We just do it. I think when she kneeled down before the man of God and humbled herself, that was just a brain default. I didn't ask you for this. Did I? I didn't say anything to you. I said, don't give me false hope. But she went to the one who gave her the gift in the first place because she knew he was the one that was going to revive it. Sometimes your brain do default things. Don't go by that. I love the story because sometimes when you are in the middle of situations, the thoughts come to make you believe that you are not men and women of faith. The thoughts come because there's a default setting. When things happen over and over and over and over and over again, when the disappointment happens over and over and over and over again, there's a default setting that happens. It's like the computer. If you ever try to do something on the computer and you keep typing something in, and after a while it types it in for you because that's your routine, that's your norm. That's our brain. Our brain is like that. Disappointment, 1. Disappointment, 2. Disappointment, 3. The brain's like, oh, okay. Discouragement. Here comes disappointment, 4. She's going to try it again. Disappointment, 5. She's going to try it again. Disappointment, 6. This is how we're supposed to react with these thoughts. Every time she's disappointed, that thought needs to come. Every time something doesn't work out just right, that thought needs to come. Because the brain is programmed that way. That's what God says, to renew your mind with the word. And what he was showing me was so awesome. That I'm a yes girl when it comes to him. He just needed me to say yes. I am not to be moved every time my brain goes into default mode, because it will. It's trained that way. I just have to get back on the things that, or saying the word that God says about that particular situation. Because he was showing me, your actions are showing me that you believe everything I said that you can do. It is my responsibility, it is our responsibility to control that default. To cast down imaginations, everything that exalts itself against what the word says. This is not going to be another disappointment for you. I have no idea what it is, but you do. You've tried it before and it did not work. You've tried it again. You're trying it again and you're a little antsy about it, but you just, in your heart of hearts, have decided to believe God. You are men and women of faith. Don't let the enemy come into your head and interject his thoughts. Those are his thoughts. Just repeat what God said. Do it anyway. Do it in fear. Do it while you're worried. Do it anyway. And watch God make them dead bones live. Don't be moved by your thought. Probably it wasn't your thought in the first place. Just keep moving. Just keep doing what that woman of God did. Don't speak to anybody who is not going to have the same level of faith that you have. Dismiss. And you have to encourage yourself, just like David did. David said, I would have fainted if I had not believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you were encouraged, because I certainly was. See you next week. Hello, my name is Jeannette Jones, and I am the Dream Coach. And you know, in order to dig up those buried dreams, you need to first be courageous. You need to be transparent. You need to be vulnerable. And you need a safe place to do that. I am that safe place. I am that listening ear. I am that place of accountability. I invite you to go to my site, www.transparencyconsulting.com, and click on the link for your free 15-minute session. Also available on the website is the book, Out of Line, Repositioning Your Walk with God. And it's full of nuggets and things that I've learned over the years. And I know it'll be a blessing to you. I look forward to hearing from you.